Good Tuesday morning. It is the 3rd of February, and I'm so glad that you're with us here on the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller, and this is one of my favorite times of the day where I get to spend about a half an hour with you talking about today's top weather headlines. We've got some interesting things to talk about. We're still dealing with some of the after effects and impacts from the weekend's weather, and that includes details on more homes that collapsed at the southern Outer Banks into the ocean with those higher tides and the beach erosion. We lost a few more homes over the weekend. We're also going to have the latest on NC-12. There was some overwash down there, and that's always an effort to clean that up down along NC-12. So we'll show you what's happening right there. We've got some really sad news with this prolonged period of cold weather we've been dealing with. You have to remember, it hasn't just been here in the mid-Atlantic. It's been for much of the eastern U.S., and unfortunately, we're now starting to see some deaths, which are believed to be weather-related, just folks overexposed to the cold. And some of the issues that they've had up in D.C. and now New York City, folks resisting getting to those warming shelters, and they just can't deal with these extremely cold temps that we've been dealing with. So we'll have more information on those stories coming up. That's a tough one, but we do want to keep you updated on that. And then farmers down across the Deep South working to save crops. We're going to take you down to Louisiana, where strawberry farmers are working to keep those crops somewhat heated during these longer cold snaps, and we'll get a check on how they are doing with all of that. In addition, we've got, I guess it's interesting news. I won't say good or bad, because whenever NASA does something, there's always a lot of thinking behind it, and they have delayed the launch of Artemis 2. It looks like they're going to push it back to March. We'll explain what was going on. They did kind of a trial, and there were some issues that came up. So, you know, I always feel like in NASA, in their time, it's the right time. So if they make the call to delay it, there is good reason. But we'll fill you in on what the latest is with Artemis 2. And then we've got to talk about our next chances to see a few more snowflakes around Hampton Roads. Maybe a little bit of accumulation in some areas. I'll kind of give you the latest thinking, and we'll talk about the confidence in the forecast and what we're looking at with that. So plenty to break down over the next 25 minutes or so, and we are going to start off with a look at the Outer Banks. You can see right now things are pretty quiet, but that was not the case over the weekend when the winds were howling coming in from the north and the northeast. That created a lot of heavy surf. It brought the tides up. There was some overwash, as I mentioned, down along NC-12 and the beach erosion, and cleanup is now underway on the Outer Banks after 4 vacant homes collapsed during the winter storm. The National Park Service says those homes were swept away by the ocean over a 24-hour period. It brings the running total to 31 homes that have collapsed down in the southern stretch of the Outer Banks. That's all occurred since 2020. Derek Lytle has a look at the aftermath.
Third house is gone. Whoa. That house right next to us is not looking good.
Water rushing in, filled with debris from multiple homes crashing down in Buxton, North Carolina.
We've had 4 houses in the past 2 days go in, and all up and down the roads, you know, looks like that.
Hunter Hicks owns several businesses in Hatteras. He believes after the last round of homes fell in the same location early October, cautionary measurements could have been taken.
Cut the houses down on a nice day, pulled them out of here, and not have the carnage like we have now.
He says cleanup will take several additional months now and believes jetty systems will not cut it, wanting county leadership to look into other alternatives, like cutting more inlets to allow the ocean to breathe.
Start building bridges and cut inlets out. You know, yeah, the jetty's going to help a little bit, but it's not stopping Mother Nature.
Floating debris poses a serious safety concern impacting business owners, fishermen, and surfers in the ocean.
For our concern, you know, it messes up our businesses and stuff like that. You know, our offshore boat, longer days, sport fishing, we go out there and end up hitting a piling. You know, that ruins our whole season, sinks the boat. What if you sink the boat and we don't have somebody around to help us out?
13 News has reached out to the National Park Service about a cleanup plan moving forward and have yet to hear back. Derek Lytle, 13 News Now.
And to kind of piggyback on what he was saying down there, you know, they were saying some of the folks were mentioning, they should cut down some of those homes that they know are eventually going to get kind of swallowed up there and fall into the ocean. Cut them down on a nice day and haul it out. When they are claimed by the ocean, all of that debris kind of gets swept and kind of brushed up and down the beach. And that is a mess for other residents down there to have to deal with. Obviously, it makes the ocean waters very dangerous here with debris and construction material floating around. So that is something to think about. We'll continue to monitor all of that. Now, the access down to the Outer Banks is along NC-12. And while we're staying down here in the Outer Banks, part of NC-12 remains closed due to overwash from the weekend storm. Right now, the highway is closed from Oregon Inlet through Rodanthe and also on the north end of Roanoke. This is a look at conditions near Pea Island last night. The high tide left behind more than 3 feet of sand near the visitor center. Crews are working to clear the road as soon as they can. All right, we're going to talk about the cold weather here that we've gone through. Yesterday, I was talking about, the end of that stretch of consecutive hours below 32 degrees, or I should say 32 or colder. So we were freezing or below freezing 132 hours, and that began on the 27th of January at 11:51 in the evening. We had a stretch that went over just over 132 hours. You see that was about 6 hours shy of the 5th all-time on record since records have been being kept at Norfolk International. That started in 1948. The longest stretch that we've had was back in 1961. There was 161 hours. So imagine another day and a little bit more of time freezing. We would have gotten there as cold as it's been. What's really interesting, though, is when you compare the 132 hours to what has happened since 2000. Keep in mind, climate's been changing. We've been seeing some warmer stretches, and our average temperatures have been going up a little bit. We keep refiguring this, and continue to monitor that. So since 2000, the longest stretch of consecutive hours was 67 hours. That took place last year, January 20th through the 23rd. We had 67 hours. This essentially double that time. So this was an incredibly cold stretch. And again, that ended yesterday just before noon. All right, as we take a look at the high temperatures here, notice how chilly it has been for the last week. What don't you see with these highs? And again, this is today's highest temperature so far, 32. We will get up into the 40s today. But what I wanted to show you, you don't see any temperatures in the 40s. You got to go back a bit farther. In fact, we have now had 8 consecutive days with highs below 40. That ends today. Today we're going to be up lower 40s near the oceanfront and right here at Norfolk at the airport, which is pretty close to the Chesapeake Bay. Inland areas will be in the mid to upper 40s, so it will be a little warmer away from the coast. But finally, after 8 days with highs in the 20s and 30s, we'll get back up above 40. There's another thing I want to talk to you about. How about considering like normal? Our normal high is 51. And when you look back, you have to go back to January 22nd. That was when Norfolk had a high of 60. That was the last day that we have had with above average temperatures. Looking at the forecast going forward, it looks like we will likely stay below average for a stretch of 3 weeks, 21 days. We're going to stay below average for the remainder of this week and really for next week as well. It looks like maybe by Friday or Saturday of next week, we could see temperatures getting back up above average. I do have a little bit of good news when we look out 8 to 14 days. I will show you how the outlook is changing a little bit for us. But you can see we are caught up in this cold, cold weather, and it's not just here in Hampton Roads. We're looking at chilly conditions across the Northeast. It's been pretty brutal. So we're going to talk now about Washington, D.C. and this stretch of freezing temperatures. It looks like it has turned deadly. Right now, district leaders are investigating up to 4 deaths potentially related to the weather. Rafael Sanchez Cruz has reaction.
One of the longest stretches of frigid temperatures in D.C. may also be deadly.
It's not confirmed, but sadly, we think the answer is yes.
Mayor Muriel Bowser says officials are investigating up to 4 weather-related deaths.
At least 2, probably all of the suspicious deaths are related to unhoused residents.
Officials say they continue doing outreach to get people into shelters.
From the beginning of the storm, as of last week, we had an additional 100 or so folks who had not come in before, and that number continues to grow.
Tuesday, D.C. public schools will open on time, despite some questions about heat in some classrooms.
Schools that are completely without heat, that's not the case. We do have issues throughout where there's a subset of classrooms.
D.C.'s Director of General Services, Delano Hunter, says the number of impacted schools can change at any moment, but insists all issues are being addressed.
The goal is for learning is typically about 68 degrees.
D.C.'s Public Works will resume handing out warnings for those who do not clear sidewalks. For now, they're holding off on $25 fines for residents and $150 fines for business owners. DPW says they're also transitioning over to manual trash pickup because of the frozen alleys across the district. This means crews will walk into alleyways to collect the garbage instead of sending trucks through.
Because we have never attempted this before, we are working as hard as we can. So if you are not on a Monday route, you are encouraged to put your trash in the alleyway as best you can. Please leave it there.
And picking up the trash by hand up there in D.C. is going to be quite a job. We'll see how that goes. Now, the cold weather is also to blame for more than a dozen deaths in New York City. Mayor Zoran Mandani says that at least 16 people have died due to hypothermia since the stretch of freezing temperatures first set in. Outreach workers have been working to get the homeless people off cold streets, and as of Monday, they've convinced more than 900 to get into shelters, but advocates say more needs to be done.
They need to expand the hours of outreach that are going on. They need to have more teams out there more regularly. They maybe need to contract with more social service groups who do that, put in overtime, whatever's necessary to get out and get these folks off of the street.
New York City has opened new single-room shelter units in Upper Manhattan. There are also 20 mobile warming units across the 5 boroughs. All right, so we talk about the cold weather up there, but it's been cold all the way down through the south. They did get some relief yesterday. You see those temperatures starting to come up around New Orleans and Little Rock back up into the 50s, low 50s in Atlanta. But it has been very, very cold all the way down to the Gulf Coast and to portions of North Florida. So these southern states, well, they're feeling the impacts as well. Some rain down across portions of Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas. But this cold snap has been something else. And strawberry farmers have been working around the clock to protect their delicate produce from the freezing temperatures. Rob Masson spoke with one farmer to learn how the plant warming process works.
North Shore strawberry farmers peel back acres of blankets to check on tender plants that needed to be tucked in.
You see this bloom? This is a bloom, and you see all the green berries? This bloom is where it starts.
Here at John Dale Farms near Ponchatoula, they cover 30 acres of strawberry plants to protect from extended freezing temperatures. And this winter, they've been busy.
Today, I'll uncover what I can pick and then cover back before evening because there's another freeze in the morning.
As workers peel back the blankets, ripe fruit is revealed and picked for local restaurants and farmers markets who prefer Louisiana berries.
Oh, definitely. I think it's a better berry. It's sweeter. We're picking them fresh. As soon as I pick this load of berries, it'll be in the city the same day.
And though the strawberry plants have been covered for more than a week in some cases, Heather Robertson believes cold weather will make for better strawberries.
Because the cold weather, it just intensifies the sugar in the berry.
All these precautions appear to have paid off. Heather Robertson says the plants look healthy and they have some nice ripe fruit on them, but there has been a small price that has to be paid for all the recent freezes.
Covering, it does kind of slow them down a little bit. It protects the plant, it protects the berry, protects the bloom, but it does slow them down.
For these Louisiana farmers, the berry business is good. John Dale Farms produces thousands of flats of strawberries each year, starting with just 5 acres 30 years ago.
Now we're at 240,000, and as you can see, that takes up 30 acres.
All right, those berries do look good. Gets me thinking about our Pungo strawberries and the great berries that we grow here in Southeast Virginia. All right, you see over my shoulder here this beautiful shot of the moon. That's credited to NASA and Sam Lott, the photographer there. When we come back, we're going to take a short break. We're going to talk about the update to NASA delaying Artemis 2, the mission, what they're doing with that launch date, and temperatures. While they're going up a little bit here in Hampton Roads, we do have some more snow, at least chances for it in the forecast. I will show you when, and I'll talk about the confidence in the forecast coming up in 2 minutes. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. NASA is now pushing back the launch date for its Artemis 2 mission. The mission was set to take off this Sunday, but after running a rehearsal yesterday, NASA now says March is the earliest the launch could take place. During that rehearsal, NASA says the crew encountered hydrogen leaks. There were ground audio dropouts, and that cold weather also impacted some cameras. Artemis 2 will send astronauts beyond the far side of the moon, which would be the farthest humans have traveled from Earth. All right, back here on Earth, this stretch of below freezing temperatures finally coming to an end. We have temperatures getting back up now into the 40s for the first time, as I mentioned, in 8 days. Richmond near 47. Even up in D.C., they'll be up around 40, 42 at Wallops, 49 at New Bern. Raleigh looking good at 48, 47 in Charlotte. Here in Hampton Roads, official highs probably in the lower 40s to maybe low to mid 40s for some areas. And here, as you go farther inland, we will see warmer temperatures later on. Right now, we're still in the low 30s and those wind chills in the 20s. So it's still really cold out there through the mid-morning, but as we get into the afternoon, it will be warming up. Wind chills not as bad either because the winds, while from the southwest, are about 5 miles per hour, 5 to 10 miles per hour today, so it's not as bad. Now, as we look out again tomorrow, it's going to be cooler. So we get up into the 40s today, a little break, then we drop it back into the upper 30s Wednesday into early Thursday. Really chilly and a chance for some snow maybe Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. I'll have more on that with our Futurecast in a moment. Back to 40 on Friday, staying cold over the weekend. We will see more sunshine for this stretch of weather here Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then as we go through next week, we're back in the upper 40s, starting to trend up. Here's where it gets a little more encouraging. If you're like me and you've said, okay, 21 days is long enough with below average temperatures, 3 weeks we've been cold. we can look forward to warmer weather. I know they are going to be looking forward to it as well up in the Northeast. They've been enjoying warmer weather back in the central U.S. and western parts of the country as well. But for the East Coast, it has been so cold for so long. And as we look out the 11th through the 17th, that 8 to 14-day outlook, there's a chance that we're actually going to average slightly above normal temperatures. Now, I will say, as I looked out using the GFS and getting out that longer range out through 14 days, there was about 3 days where it got really warm, and on both sides of that 3-day stretch, it was chilly again. So those 3 days may kind of skew this a little bit warmer than what we actually find. You know, if you've got this 7-day period or an 8-day period, whatever it is, 6-day period, and you've got 3 cold days but 3 really warm days, they can average above normal, but it's still going to be chilly in that mix as well. But at least we're starting to see some changes. And I think at this point, we'll take whatever we can get. Let's look at the satellite and the radar images. You can see a little bit of snow back across the Ohio River Valley. We've got a quick moving little impulse here. It's a short wave that is going to come through and give us a chance for a little bit of wet weather overnight tonight and early tomorrow morning. I think maybe a little bit of snow across northern parts of the area. We don't have any of that right now, but as our futurecast picks up, you'll see the sunshine through the midday and then clouds increasing this afternoon. There's some of that precipitation you can see kind of drifting by to the north, not real heavy there. We could see a few showers coming through, maybe a little bit of snow or mix off to the north, and then that moves out early Wednesday. That's the first shot there, that first short wave. There's another short wave that is set to come through, and that's going to have more of an impact on the southern part of the viewing area. You can see some rain showers Wednesday, potentially across parts of the area. And then Wednesday night, you see that precip chance there, and then maybe some snow showers in here. Now, the graph is the heaviest snow maker. The other models, the Euro and the GFS, not producing as much. And I'll show you kind of the projections here from the various models so you can get a feel for what's going on. First of all, the Euro, you can see the Euro is producing maybe up to a half an inch down around Elizabeth City, and a Hosky, lighter amounts to the north. But you can see a coating on the ground there potentially, and maybe an inch or a little bit more down around a Hosky and Elizabeth City. As we take a look at the GFS, this one also not producing much. So confidence isn't super high that we're going to see a lot here, but you do take a look here at the graph model, and look at this. It's throwing up much higher amounts. That's the model I just showed you where I said this is the one that's kind of going gangbusters. If the other models start to trend towards this, we'll bump the numbers up. At this point, kind of the thinking is we could see a dusting on the ground, maybe up to an inch and a half or so. Some spots locally closer to 2 inches, not out of the question. This would be for Wednesday night into early Thursday, this area in here. Again, the graph is going with more. The other models are going lighter. Don't want to get too crazy with it. We're going to take a look at it. Looks like it's going to be less than an inch, maybe a coating to a half an inch, some of these areas outlying. So we'll see. All right, we will be watching that. And of course, this is something, this little short wave kind of developed quickly. So we'll be watching and letting you know this would be Wednesday night into Thursday. Now, how about the forecast confidence? All right, for precip type, rain and mix to snow to the north tonight. Okay, the models have been on that pretty well, although the graph was saying maybe a little more snow in that mix. But rain to snow mix to the north, and then that snow chance for Wednesday night. I'm pretty confident in the precip types based on how the temperature profiles are shaping up and what we're looking at. I will say, you know, will it absolutely develop? There's a lack of confidence that it's absolutely going to develop. But if it does, we've got a pretty good handle on what type of precip we would see. Snow totals, this is where, quite honestly, I'm not biting on all of it because the models are still varying and none of them are really producing super heavy snow, although that graph just bumped up those totals. So that's something that we'll be watching. If we were to get more than a couple inches of snow, that would be, you know, that would be pretty significant. So like I said, not a tremendous amount of confidence in the snow amount forecast yet. But the timing of this precipitation, all the models agree we have a shot later tonight, mainly to the north, and then that second second round coming up Wednesday night into early Thursday. So I am confident on that. This is a thing that we will have to watch as we go over the next day or so, and we'll continue to keep you updated on those snowfall outlooks. Here's what we have right now: a few high thin clouds, a few contrails as well. Skies are mostly sunny across much of the region as we check in with the Thompson Creek Window Company and the sky view over Town Point Park. 32 at the airport. Winds are west-southwest at 7 miles per hour. You can see conditions pretty good out on the bay and the ocean. High tide comes just after 10. Temperatures today will top out in the low 40s near the coast, mid 40s around town center, upper 40s for our inland areas. Again, that ground warming up, so some of the snow that we may see tomorrow night may melt a little bit as it falls once we get that ground temperature up a little bit. You can see temperatures mid 40s to the north, also around Gloucester, 41 at Matthews, cooler over on the eastern shore, upper 30s to near 40. Outer Banks, low 40s there, mid to upper 40s for inland parts of North Carolina. Now, again, some snow or mix possible for our northern areas. Showers will develop likely at some point this evening, especially for the northern half of the area. Temperatures pretty borderline. For tomorrow, again, showers are going to be likely, I think, initially down across North Carolina. Some mixing to snow possible into the evening and overnight into early Thursday. So we're going to take a look. I think by sunrise Thursday, most of it should be out, but there might be a couple lingering snow showers. And again, some accumulation possible Wednesday night into Thursday. Want some more time to see how the models come together. What I can tell you is the upcoming weekend and early next week look pretty easy going for us, much less eventful with more sunshine, but it will be chilly this weekend. Remember, you can always stay in touch with the forecast when you download the 13 News Now mobile app. Thanks so much for spending the last half hour with us here on the Weather Desk. We'll continue to keep you updated throughout the week. Stay weather aware.